Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. I am Andrew Musgrove and he is Sam Mulliner. We are recording this before Newcastle United versus Wolves, but you'll be watching it and listening to it the morning after the game. Hopefully, Newcastle United have managed to pick up all 3 points and continue this fantastic winning run that they are currently on. But we are here this morning. Why are you sticking your finger up? Are you
Fingers crossed?
I thought you were.
My word, I wasn't going top shelf.
I thought you were saying, I'll put my hand, I've got a point to make.
My
Anyway,
word. Straight on the offensive.
We're here to talk about Sam Mulliner's dream, but realistic January transfer window.
Yeah.
Nothing has happened yet for Newcastle United.
No.
A little bit of speculation, but not even that much speculation, to be quite honest. People who listen to this and watch it already know my view on the January transfer window. I am pretty certain, and not because of any inside knowledge or anything, just my gut feeling and kind of reading between the lines, that Newcastle United will not sign anyone this month. Frustrating, and it'll be frustrating for those making decisions at the club. It'll be frustrating for the players. It'll be frustrating for anyhow. But I think my point of view as a fan and as a journalist is that I understand, A, there's a desire to add to the squad, but B, they cannot because of their restrictions. And if they can just hold out, it means in the summer, the shackles will be off and they can strengthen substantially more than they can in January, and also avoid the risk of having to sell someone before the PSR accounts are due on June the 30th.
Yeah, we don't want to be in a situation like we were last summer with having to sell Anderson, who's having a great season with Nottingham Forest, and Minter as well, who probably would have got his fair share of minutes on that right wing this season. It's such a tightrope, isn't it? Because how do you even contemplate a transfer window like this? Because essentially you're asking me now to name my dream players that I want to see play for Newcastle after the prediction of Isak and Tonali in particular there, to then just be completely hamstrung by PSR. So it's going to be so difficult, this.
That's why it's got in big letters, realistic.
Well, realistic then. Okay, join us next week, because there's no business to be had, and we're wasting everyone's time.
No, don't say that. We want them to listen right into the end. No, I think there's a possibility that they will bring in one player. I think one big player.
It's going to be a goalkeeper as well, isn't it?
Well, a whisper that I've had said to me on the back of a report last week is Aaron Ramsdale is fully on the radar, and I don't quite understand that. I guess on one hand, you have to say they've got very few things wrong when it comes to transfers, and you trust Eddie Howe and you trust Paul Mitchell.
What have they got wrong? Briefly,
at the time, I thought Chris Wood was an interesting one. I thought it was good. You took a big name, a big player away from a rival looking for survival. But in terms of playing style and setup, I could never quite understand why they bought Chris Wood, because it was quite clear that they would not play to his strengths. Now, obviously, he's scoring wonders for Nottingham Forest. You disagree?
Yeah, I disagree. I think that was a good signing for the time. We're obviously in a bit of trouble. It's not like we can all of a sudden, after the takeover, start planning for a Champions League charge. We were bottom of the league, man. So that had to be done. I'm thinking more of, I don't know. I'm not saying these are my opinions. I'm just saying
whose opinions are they?
I'm just saying, well, Harvey Barnes.
Well, it's one of those, isn't it? It's like,
is he worth 38 mil?
I think his stats suggest you what he was.
But what does your eye tell you?
That he's maybe not as good as I thought he was. But also, he hasn't been helped by the fact Anthony Gordon's been in the form of his life. Also, he hasn't really.
So why could he not adapt his game, grab it by the scruff of the neck, and try and make that right wing position his own, like Jacob Murphy's done?
Because let's be honest, it's not as simple as that, is it? It's not as simple when you're a left winger and the only opportunity is to switch to the right, and that's your opportunity to nail down a first team place. It's not that simple, because your game is totally tailored to being a left winger. It's not as easy just switching flanks. It's not. Jacob Murphy would not have the same success on the left, and Anthony Gordon isn't the same player on the right.
Did you not see his cross for Isak against Arsenal?
Yes, beautiful. But in terms of over a long period of time, Anthony Gordon, for the most part, has not done it on
He's
the right.
More effective on the left. Yeah. Of course he is. Well, yeah.
But yeah, for the large part, they haven't got much wrong. And if they want Aaron Ramsdale, as much as it doesn't excite me, as much as I don't really get it.
Well, I have an alternative anyway.
Come on, then.
Lucas Chevalier.
From?
Lille.
So if you've just tuned in for the first time and you're not aware of Sam, or as we call him
Don't blame you.
Mystic Meg, because Sam has a history of highlighting young talent from around the foreign leagues and getting most things right.
Yeah, but I wouldn't go too overboard with this one. He's fairly well known. He's French international.
I mean, I don't.
It's only Mike Maignan that's keeping him out of the French first team. So he's a fantastic shot stopper, brilliant goalkeeper. He's adept with his feet as well. I'm surprised more aren't looking at him, to be honest. He will end up at a top club. Well, Lille's a top club, but one of the elite teams he will end up at sooner rather than later. So I would be trying to look. We missed the bus with Mamadishvili, didn't we? So he would definitely be on a par with Liverpool's incoming goalkeeper, and he's a heck of a lot better than your likes of Kelleher and Trafford and Ramsdale. Yeah, I would be looking at him. It'd probably be fairly costly, however, which is always going to be an issue in this FFP, PSR, FFS times.
I think one for this summer, that one, because I think Eddie Howe is going to get his wish. He's going to keep Martin Dubravka until the end of the season. Nick Pope will then come back, and then we also have John Ruddy, Black Demos, Mark Gillespie, and any other hosts of goalkeepers.
He really don't fancy Black Demos, though, does he?
No, and I've seen more and more people kind of question why, and I always say he can't be that bad of a goalkeeper, but for whatever reason,
Greece is number one.
Fancy him.
Which, all right, I say Greece aren't that great. Former European champions, of course.
They went on a big unbeaten run, didn't they?
Didn't they just? He did all right in the 2 games against England. I did think he scored an own goal, though, which was a bit unlucky, but he looks okay to me.
But you don't understand the calls to keep Martin Dubravka.
If he wants to go, let him go.
You've been impressed with him since he's come back in?
He's done fine. Has he done anything out of the ordinary that you wouldn't expect from a standing keeper to do?
But do you not feel...
I think it was more down to, particularly the early games, it was more down to the defensive prowess of Burn and Share than it was down to Dubravka. Now, this isn't a slant on Dubravka. I think he's been a wonderful servant for Newcastle United, and I think he's been a fantastic goalkeeper. And I was not one of them criticising him last season when he had his stint in goal and maybe wasn't as convincing as he is this season. If he doesn't want to be here, let him go. You just named all of our goalkeepers. Vlachodimos can sit on the bench for the rest of the season when Pope's fully fit. It just doesn't matter. Why are you trying your hardest and giving extra money to a 36-year-old goalkeeper? Well, if he wants to go to Saudi and have one big payday, just let him go. Who cares?
I think because Eddie Howe trusts him, I think Eddie Howe has been impressed with him. And it was a key quote earlier this week where he said he's now part of our plans, which I don't think he was before Nick Pope got injured. I think he would have been on his way. I just look at Newcastle United with him in, and I feel a lot more confident with him with a net. You don't? I
think that's fickleness.
Okay, interesting.
Because he was in the net probably this time last season, wasn't he? And he was getting pelters left, right, and centre. Yeah, he wasn't playing very well,
but probably deserved.
He hasn't done anything amazing.
So you don't feel more confident with the ball going back to him?
I feel absolutely fine. Yes, I understand what you're trying to say. He's better with his feet than Nick Pope. And yes, when the ball does come to Nick Pope, there is clenching of certain areas of the body when you're sat in the stands. But, Pope's still a fantastic shot stopper. Goalkeeper is one for the summer, I would agree, rather than January.
Do you have him down in your eyes on your wish list to leave this month? Even though Newcastle aren't going to get a fee from?
Not bothered.
You just be not bothered either way.
Pope is returning sooner rather than later, isn't he?
You think he'll be straight back in?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Vlachodimos can be number 2. I don't know. I'm really interested. I mean, if you don't agree, that's absolutely fine because I get it. He's playing pretty well. He hasn't made any mistakes, which is when you're a standing keeper, your lack of mistakes is more really highlighted than anything great that you do. He's not. Can you name one great save he's made since he's been introduced back into the team? or have we just been defending better? He's all right. He's come out and punched a few crosses against Arsenal.
I think Newcastle are defending better because they're more confident that when the ball goes back to their keeper and he can't pick it up, he's going to control it, and then his distribution is going to be good. Nick Pope, at times, because of his kicking and his distribution, put Newcastle United in danger. And I do think, and look, the impact of Tonali has been a bigger reason for Newcastle's clean sheets.
Agreed.
The partnership between Burn and Share, and then Burn and Botman, again, bigger reason for the clean sheets. But I do also think Martin Dubravka's ability on the ball is a reason that Newcastle United have done so well defensively.
Yeah, I'm not. Oh, yeah, he's done fine. He's done well.
And if Newcastle United were receiving a fee for him this month, then I would have him sold. But if they're just going to let him go on a free, I don't see why you let him go, and you also risk opening the can of worms that will inevitably open if Martin Dubravka goes this month about the relationship between Eddie Howe and Paul Mitchell. I think that is actually maybe a bigger reason.
Well, it seems like they're all on the same page, isn't it? Like,
yeah, they do.
To your
point being, if after Eddie Howe in the last 2 weeks and everything he said about Martin Dubravka, and Martin Dubravka still goes, and even though the understanding is that actually there's no disagreement, everyone's working to the same goal, everyone's on the same page, it still just automatically creates those headlines. It creates that talking point, which you don't need. You don't. It's not true, but also you don't need it.
Yeah. In that case, you reject any bids then, and then. But that's not the aspect that I'm disagreeing with. The aspect is that if they're going to offer him more money to stay for another 6 months, that's the bit I can't get on board with. Because why? Why? This contract length is exactly the same. He can still talk to other teams from Saudi or Europe or wherever. It's going to be Saudi.
Ben's getting out
to join in the summer. He's a good professional. He didn't kick up a fuss when he eventually got his loan move to Man United. I mean, it's just obvious he really doesn't want to play in a League Cup final for us.
So that I'm going to just say, it seems like your dream realistic transfer window would see Martin Dubravka going out. I know you've said
I don't mind either way, but if he doesn't want to be here, let him go.
Okay. Other exits potentially. Again, we're being realistic. I don't think we'll see too many people go. I would like to see Miguel Almiron go. I don't think you're going to get £12 million for him. I think you'd be looking to get 7, 8 from him. I think it's just time you cash in.
Yeah, I do too.
His wages are clearly an issue. He doesn't want to leave.
Well, yeah, he's had opportunities to leave before, hasn't he? And not taken them. I think he realises and appreciates now that the writing is very much on the wall still for him, and his Newcastle career is as good as over. This is the key area for me. Right wing has been an area of the squad that has not had any investment whatsoever since the takeover. So it's bound to be a highlighted position now. Murphy is in a purple patch of form. He's done great with his assists, and he's contributed with goals, and he's done really well. But options off the bench, Murphy is not always in such a rich vein of form. There has to be some fresh blood, some new impetus, and a level above a new face that can come in and contribute heavily to that side of the pitch, whether it's Umbermo, whether it's my man Takefusa Kubo, who I've seen a lot of people get on the Kubo train on social media. Everyone's starting to get on the Kubo train. I was like, where were you 18 months ago when I first said it?
I agree with you on the need for an upgrade at right wing. I think the issue is that Newcastle United need to sell before they can buy.
Yes.
And I look around and think, are they asking a bit too much for certain players? I mean, there's reports that they want 12 million for Miguel Almiron. That's not going to happen. I think we're at the stage now where you cut your losses on Miguel Almiron, you cut your losses on Kieran Trippier. No, we'll get onto that in a moment. I just think Newcastle United's issue isn't necessarily that they're bad sellers. They have been in the past. I think what the issue is now is that they haven't really got anyone to sell. Like
it's this type of deal where we're bad sellers. We're really good sellers in other aspects, like particularly going back to previous, the likes of Sissoko and Perez and Andy Carroll, that feed looks a lot more happier than it did at the time.
I was fuming.
I
was raging.
Yeah, so was I. Especially to Liverpool, I just cannot stand. But yeah, it's this kind of deal where, you know, it's the right time for the player to be moving on. He's probably past his peak. Well, there's no probably about it, and we now need to shift him along to kind of make room for an improved model, if you like. It's this type of deal that we're really bad at pulling off. Really bad. Historically, just doesn't go. I mean, yeah, all right, you can ask for 12 million, which is about half of what we paid for him, something like that, and you know, you'd probably take 8 or 9.
Yeah, I've also been stung as well by long contracts from the previous ownership. I mean, Isaac Hayden's still on the books. He's just got on loan to Portsmouth.
Yeah,
that's just an example of an absolutely crazy contract.
I was buzzing when he signed it, though.
Runs till 2026.
Yeah, end of next season.
Mental. So
I was buzzing when he signed that deal. Obviously, pre-takeover, I thought he was a rocking arm midfielder. I love Isaac Hayden. Interviewed him before as well. Good dude. Wish him well.
Kieran Trippier, you said no there when I said.
Oh, hang on.
Go on.
Replacements for right wing.
We're there because I think it's important to talk about who they would sell. Because you can come at me with some names, but if we're being realistic, they have to sell before they buy. So we need to go through and say who are they going to sell. You say no to selling Kieran Trippier?
Absolutely.
Elaborate.
Why would you? The experience and leadership he shows, comes in and does a job on the pitch. You know, he's still a great little player. Offers a lot more going forward than Livramento. More to come from Livramento, and it's by no means a criticism of him because he's been fantastic. But there's still some developing to do with Livramento, particularly on the attacking side of his game. But Trippier has that in spades. Yes, I know he's on the slide and he's not as good as he was, but he's still brilliant. And his leadership qualities on and off the field is absolutely priceless. You're not going to make any real money on him letting him go. So why? Why would you?
Because you can still make some money. You're not going to make a profit, but you can still make some money on him. And I think if someone comes in with a bit of £6 to £7 million for me,
which you're not going to get.
I would cash
the time for that was last January when Bayern
should have
Munich.
cashed in against Bayern Munich. Okay, so but this
again, I would if we were having this argument this time last year, then I'd be more. I'd come around to it a bit more because then there's a genuine case where you can get some money in, and then you'd be able to turn that into buying a replacement, a capable replacement. But now, when you're not going to get much, it's not worth the hassle.
But this again reaffirms the point that they haven't got sellable assets because Kieran Trippier.
Well, we have. We just don't want to sell them.
Well, exactly. Well, Kieran Trippier splits the fan base opinion. Okay, everyone wants to see Miguel Almiron gone, but no one wants to go and buy him. And also, a lot of people watching this and listening to this will be saying, "Oh, just sell them, sell them." It's not that easy.
No, it's not. Otherwise, we would have done by now.
There was a real desire from people at Newcastle United to shift out the likes of Miguel Almiron, just like for the last few years. They've tried to shift out Isaac Hayden, but it's not as simple as saying
Jeff Hendrick, Jamal Lewis.
Yeah, Jamal Lewis, he's back.
Yeah.
You know, it's not as simple as that, you know, because you've got to find the suitor. You've got to have the right club for the player to want to move.
Yeah. Didn't we end up letting Ryan Fraser go for a free?
And you know, and this is the issue, I think, with Kieran Trippier, for example, and it's a little bit different with Trippier because you're right. You know, if he stays, you get that experience. He is a quality competitor with Team Livramento. There's a lot of reasons to keep him, but I do fear, and you mentioned a few names there, a lot of contracts run out in 2026. Are we going to have a situation when Newcastle United just actually let a load of senior pros go for absolutely zero money? Whereas, okay, they might not get the wealth of the world, but you could still raise maybe 20, 25 million by selling 4 or 5 for a reduced price, but you could still bring in some money, which all helps towards a transfer fee.
You don't gain anything in letting them go this month. I think that there'll be a few senior departures in the summer, which is the time to do it. So Trippier may leave in the summer. Jamal Lascelles, who's been a brilliant captain down the years from Championship to Champions League, bossed Mbappe at St. James's. He may well leave. You couldn't sell him because he's still on the comeback from his ACL. that there's a fair few there that could end up leaving in the summer, as well as the likes of Longstaff, who's only got 18 months left on his current deal, and you'd be able to cash him in for my favourite phrase that now makes me feel physically sick: pure profit.
Pure profit.
But yeah, there's a couple of those guys that potentially could an exit be on the cards. But why would you let Kieran Trippier go this month when there's a potential cup final on the horizon?
Oh, you're not one of those that says Kieran Trippier plays ahead of Tino Livramento in the final, are you?
No.
Oh, that's okay then.
But he's heavily involved in that setup and in preparation for the game. Obviously, Arsenal are a team that could quite easily come and score 2 goals in the first 10 minutes at St James's. They got 4 once and still wouldn't win the game, but they could put us bang in trouble. So it's not done yet. But
have you booked your hotel?
Yes.
Idiot. Continue.
It's refundable.
Sorry, if you booked your hotel, you're not an idiot.
It's refundable. Fail to prepare, prefer to fail, my friend.
Yes.
I booked it last year as well.
I'm more of an idiot in terms of you jinxing it. But anyway, I get the point. We saw
3 seasons in a row, and this is how great being a Newcastle fan is again. 3 seasons in a row, I've had hotels to Wembley booked. Didn't need to use it last year and got my money back. But the year before was...
They're going to bring in a Newcastle tax in these hotels. But I get the point you're making about Kieran Trippier, because we saw the experience at hand against Bromley, Sula celebration, for example. There was a pass from Miley and calmed them down. So I get what you're saying. I do get what you're saying. But again, it just reaffirms that
Spurs as well. It was all too frenetic.
Yeah.
And the chaos.
But it reaffirms the issue that Newcastle and Paul Mitchell have got, that the sellable assets, not everybody wants to sell them. And really, I'm looking at the names that you could cash in on, and it's probably only Miguel Almiron that has
that commands any type of fee, other than maybe Sean Longstaff.
Yeah, commands any type of fee, and that is universally kind of waved on down the road already. Sean Longstaff, I think you would probably have 80-90% of people saying,
and it's
yeah.
But that doesn't surprise me whatsoever. But it's only now that we can even begin to talk about selling Longstaff, because the midfield quandary has finally been resolved.
But I do think one of the key factors in Longstaff's future is Eddie Howe, and I don't think Eddie Howe wants to sell Sean Longstaff.
Eddie Howe doesn't want to sell anyone.
He says that, but he's
apart from probably Vlachodimos.
Being diplomatic in the public, but it's interesting.
He looks at Vlachodimos every day in training and just pictures Elliot Anderson's face.
Did you see him with his sunglasses on?
Oh, he looks an absolute coin.
And you know for a fact that cost more than our monthly wages, mate. You know it did. But on Sean Longstaff, it's really interesting. I mean, he had an absolute stinker against Bromley. He's not really been in the best of form in recent times that we've seen him. I thought even against Spurs, he was well off the pace, and it's difficult to drop straight in and make an impact. He's not that kind of game-changing.
He always wants half a second too long on the ball, which is my only ever criticism of Sean. I would still be keeping him as a squad player.
Well, but see, there you go. There you go. So who, other than Miguel Almiron, are they going to sell this January? I'm attacking my microphone in anger.
Calm down. Lloyd Kelly, if it's been to be believed. I would only be selling Almiron this month, and there's a number of players I like to come in and replace, some more expensive than others. There is an argument that you could sell Longstaff now with the emergence of Miley. You could possibly bring in another one for the future as well in midfield. So, but like I say, I would never have considered selling Longstaff before now, because he brought that balance in midfield, and he was a key kind of component in that, where he's no longer, because we got there in the end in putting Tonali in the 6, even though on this podcast you told me Tonali couldn't play in the 6.
We get things wrong.
Well, don't give me we.
We. Hello, Willie Masula. I loved your goal on Sunday against Bromley. Did you, Sam Mulliner?
I did, yeah. Cost me a cookie, but I enjoyed it.
Just for those who missed the live show yesterday, Sam bet me a cookie that I would not score against Bromley.
I'm a betting man. What can I say? You win some, you lose some.
How much would it take for you to part with Longstaff this January?
Depends who you're selling to. If it was someone as thick as Man United, 50 mil. If it's someone a bit more realistic,
Everton.
New money, new takeover,
30?
new money. Yeah, that'll do.
I think 25 to 30 would do.
No, I don't want to. Yeah,
it's all pure profit, all ads. And I think if they manage to sell Longstaff for around that amount plus Miggy, then I do think they would bring in that right winger. I think.
And you also need a right-sided centre back.
Yeah, I think the right wing's
those are the two, and then goalkeeper's probably third, and maybe I know there's a clamour for a backup striker as well. Which Jonathan David's out of contract in the summer. There's a lot of good talent actually available on loan. Like Juventus have just got Kolo Muani on loan. Where's that come from?
Well, maybe
Arsenal has sat there twiddling their thumbs, going, "I want Duran for 30 million. Isaac's our player." Honestly, get a life.
Maybe the loan market is something to consider, but in guarantee none of the top teams in the Premier League are going to do Newcastle any favours when it comes to that. But there is talent to pick up.
There is loads of talent to pick up. There are some deals going around Europe thinking, well, why aren't Premier League teams getting in on that? Why?
Or you could look below in the Championship.
Schwarzkeller's going to PSG for 70 million. He was a 130 million pound player last summer, and now he's going to PSG for 70.
The chap from Dortmund who's just joined Aston Villa,
Daniel Marlin, yeah, he was a thorn in our side at St James's last season, but he's in and out. I watched Dortmund very regular because I fell in love with that place. Nuri Sahin out, by the way. Change of manager very much needed in Dortmund, but he's very in and out. He's not. He's not anything to worry about, and I think they're bringing him in not as a first choice. I think Villa actually want to get rid of Leon Bailey, who I have it on good authority is a bit of a bad egg. So that he's probably the natural replacement for him.
Very interesting to see Villa doing a bit of business. Of course, look, all this is surrounded in doom and gloom because of the PSR restrictions. Hopefully in the summer, there's less restrictions on what Newcastle United can do. I will be honest, this January, my realistic prediction is that they just won't do anything. I think they will struggle to get Miguel Almiron out the door unless they are willing to accept anywhere between £5 to £8 million. But then the wages are an issue. He does not want to move from Europe, and I can understand that. I actually applaud the fact he doesn't want to go and pick up the big paycheck in Saudi. I applaud that. His family are settled here, and you've got to put your family first. It doesn't matter whether you're a multi-millionaire or just a man who works in the local pub.
America, though, is an option, though, isn't it?
It is, but I think he still thinks he's got something to offer in Europe, and he does have something to offer a lower league team. I think he could still do a decent enough job. Maybe say a Leicester, for example, a team down there, plenty of running, energetic.
They'll be playing in the Championship next season.
I don't think they will sell Almiron. Simply, his wages are too high.
I think they're going to try their utmost. Though.
Oh, they certainly will do. And this is the point as well. As we've said, they want to sell these players and they want to strengthen the team. There's no way Paul Mitchell is sitting in his office alongside Eddie Howe and going, "Nah, the squad's fine. The squad's fine."
Yeah.
They know one or two decent additions this January and Champions League pretty much becomes a cert. They know that.
Yeah.
But they can't do it. And it goes back to risking your accounts ahead of that deadline on June the 30th and then being bitten like they were last year. And I think that's really interesting as well, because I think there is that understanding, as much as it's a frustration, that business probably won't happen this month. But I think there's an understanding.
Preparation should be underway for the summer, though.
And I think they need to hit the ground running.
Oh, yeah.
As soon as the window opens in the summer. Not leaving it later on. Let's get some deals through the door. Obviously, a good PR boost. Paul Mitchell will need a good start to the window. Potentially, if they've got Champions League, it makes it a little bit easier. But I do think there's an understanding amongst the majority of the fans that this isn't ideal. This isn't what the club want. But the bigger picture is actually, if we keep our powder dry now, we can then go in the summer and spend big, and we can really invest in the side. And we can bring in those 2, 3, maybe 4 big quality additions. And who knows, maybe even attack the Premier League title next season.
Steady. The only team that are really spending this month are Man City. Shock. Kusanov, the defender that we were linked with, he ain't worth 50 million. I mean, they've had their pants down there if they end up paying that for him. Yes, he's a good young centre-back with plenty of potential, but he ain't worth that much. I'm sorry. His agent's working overtime for that. And then Mamouche as well, that could be a very good deal indeed, to be fair. But
do you share that understanding that I think
fan base? Yeah, 100%. It was more frustrating in the summer because there was the outgoings stung a little bit. Anderson and Minter, because a lot of people really wanted to see Minter get a chance in the first team. And like I said, he probably would have got a fair share of minutes this season because of the situation on right wing. So that stung a little bit after he had a good season at Feyenoord. And obviously Elliot Anderson, it's never nice when you sell one of your top young players. But we don't want to be in a situation this coming summer where we have to sell a Lewis Miley or a Trevin Sanusi. That would just be sickening again. So,
well, Howe was asked in his most recent press conference, so this was before the Wolves game, about the future of Lewis Miley and the battles with PSR. And he said, we were faced with literally no other option in that moment. With 48 hours to go, we had to make a decision that we did not want to make, and that's selling Minter and Elliot Anderson. It will always be our last choice to do that. But when you add up everything together and you go, well, it's a points deduction and breaching PSR or making a sale, I think you have to make the sale. And of course, they avoided the points deduction, and fingers crossed they don't have
Forest
to.
didn't. They took the hit, and now look at them.
Yeah.
That's another option. Do you take the points deduction, back yourself to stay up,
well, I've seen a lot
and then attack it, go next season? It's an option. A couple of names for right wing.
But a couple of names for this January?
Yeah.
So but that's based on them selling Longstaff and Almiron, right?
Yeah, obviously, yeah, you wouldn't get Kubo because it'd be too expensive even if you sell Almiron. The valuations are always tricky. Get up Monaco's squad for me because one of the names have completely escaped me, even though I was literally talking to my son about him this morning because they've got Villa next week in the Champions League. My son is a Newcastle fan. I have parented wisely. It's just my wife supports Villa. So there's a right winger who obviously Monaco, Paul Mitchell knows very, very well indeed.
Come on then, name him.
Akalouche. That's the one.
Magnez Akalouche.
Yes, absolutely. So Akalouche from Monaco could be an option.
Frenchman. How many goals has he scored this season? Where's your full stats, my son? 4 goals in 22 games, 5 assists.
How old is he?
He looks very young. On his profile picture on Transfer Market, he is 22. Okay, so there's one name.
Great age. Obviously, another name that's been mentioned as well, plenty out in the public domain, and leaded a video on Newcastle Fans TV, Bakayoko from Eindhoven. He would certainly be a cheaper alternative to someone like Kubo and Umbermo. Umbermo, we believe the price tag is 50 mil.
At least, yeah.
So that's not happening this month.
I don't think Brentford are open to selling this January. And I think if Newcastle United were going to bring someone in on that right flank, it would be from Dutch, French league, maybe the German league. Someone from over in Europe where it's less money, but also when you go with a decent amount of money, especially say the Dutch league, they tend to sell. They do tend to sell, even if it's their biggest and best players.
Yes, they absolutely do. So those are a couple of names that I would be looking at. Obviously, I've mentioned the goalkeeper there long term, probably more one for the summer, Chevalier. There are a couple of young strikers out there, but remember I said to you the other week on the pod, Karim Konate from Salzburg, he's done his ACL. So,
because you know what, I researched that after you said it because I did a little story on it based on your quotes, and then I realised
he's done his ACL, which is absolutely gutting for a young player. But hopefully he can come back and still be a bit of a threat. But you're going to highlight one.
Yeah, Morgan Whittaker. Now he had a belter season last season. Unfortunately, he's had this season been disrupted by injury, but he can play anywhere across the front three. He currently plays for Plymouth. Are they at the bottom, aren't they?
They're towards that end of things, but you will hire Wayne Rooney as your manager. That's what you're going to get. He has been
courted by quite a few teams. He's only hit 4 and 21 this season, but as I said last season, I think he got into the high 20s. He was one of the top scorers in the championship. 20 goals he scored in 50 games last season in all competitions. He's a young man. He's not going to cost as much as say someone like Brian Aburn. And I think He's not that young, actually. He's 24.
Well, you say that as well. He's not going to cost. There is an English tax on these players, and I, as a cap doth to you, you highlighted Liam Delap, didn't you?
I did.
Before the season started,
because I think
as your young striker to.
I think what's interesting with the transfer market, when we suggest buying players from the Championship, or when we suggest buying players who haven't made the cut at Man City or Chelsea, for example, you often find comments, and they're not just one or two. There's quite a few comments often that say, "Oh, we've got to be aiming higher. We've got to be aiming for bigger and better." But I think there's so much talent in the Championship. I mean, you look at Morgan Rogers, for example. You look at his stats at Borough; they were dire.
Yeah, they were, but you got to remember these kind of players. They came from very, very hot academies. So Morgan Rogers was let go by City for 1.5 million.
But that's my point. People are turning their noses up, or some are, at Championship suggestions, but also turning their noses up at one for better phrase, rejects from Man City or Chelsea. I mean, Delap, for instance,
Well, it'd be interesting to see if he has a relegation release clause, because you would say, well, I wouldn't say, I know for a fact that the three teams that came up are favourites to go straight back down this summer. And you would probably say, as the table stands, for the third place, it's probably between Ipswich and Wolves. There are a couple that could obviously slip down, including Manchester United. Yeah, there is a few. I tend to look towards Europe now because, like you said, it's cheaper.
Yeah, better value for money.
It is a lot better value for money. There's a lot of talent out there. Even like Portuguese league, you look at Diamande possibly in the summer for centre back. He's one. Kuzanov was supposed to be a cheap play. The first team he was linked to in England was Leeds to go and play in the Championship, and now all of a sudden Man City are paying 50 mil potentially for him. He ain't worth that.
Well, we shall wait and see. Newcastle were very keen on him. I've set out my first thought on this window that it would be one of no movement either way. I'm going to set out my little bit more of a loose thought on it. Miguel Almiron, and I want to say Kieran Trippier to go.
No.
And then they will try.
Absolutely not.
And bring in someone with the funds they raise. If I'm pushing the boat out, Sean Longstaff goes alongside Miguel Almiron. They raise, let's say, 40, 45 million, and they then bring in a right winger who can also play up top, because I think that's key. I don't know who that would be. I haven't got a name for you.
Well, you want Cunha, don't you? But
that's not going to happen. This.
Well, it's not going to happen. Full stop. To be honest, unless they go down. I think that's the only way.
In the summer,
they bought him for 50 million.
Right.
I wouldn't be paying more than that for him.
You don't think he's worth more than that?
No.
Interesting.
You get better value for. You've got to look at value for money because it's so important in these PSR times. You can't go overpaying willy-nilly, because otherwise you end up like Everton and Man United. It will catch up with them eventually.
If you pay, for example, on The View from the Opposition, the Wolves podcaster Jordan said, if Wolves still, I think he would cost the team £70 million, which I agree is an eye-watering amount. But let's just say Newcastle pays £70 million. Score more. Okay, well, he's scored 10 so far this season, 12 last season.
So's Burmo.
Well, he would be
50 mil.
Well, at least
50 mil.
I get the point about value for money, but I also think there's something to be said about players who are showing consistent form in the Premier League over 1, 2, 3, 4 seasons.
Yeah.
I think that comes at a higher premium, higher price. But if you can buy someone who you're thinking, or you can pretty much guarantee, nothing's guaranteed in life, but you can pretty much guarantee will hit the ground running because they've done it in the Premier League for the last 3 or 4 seasons, then I'm not against paying an extra 10, 50 million pounds, because I think when you go abroad, and you've given the example there of Everton, okay, well, I can give you an example of Tovan. I can give you an example of Cabela.
Oh, yeah, we've had a few.
Yeah, it works both ways. I think every time you buy abroad for players who haven't been in the Premier League, there's always that thought in the back of your mind, are they going to find it too physical? Are they going to find it too tough?
Yeah, well, that's why you do your thorough scouting and your due diligence, which aside from a gambling faux pas, Newcastle United have done their due diligence and scouting very, very well with their new signing.
Would you have bought Xerxes for the right fee?
No, absolutely not. Done for the right fee. Weasley Dan paid more than these release clauses. It's hilarious.
Don't call him that.
He likes a project.
That's Sam Mullner's opinion.
It is my opinion. But if you're watching, Dan, two players I want to question you on. Whilst we're on valuations. The first, which we'll skim over, your man Delap, because obviously Wilson will probably leave in the summer.
They missed an absolute trick getting. I mean, he cost.
So how much is he going to cost in the summer now? Because we'll need a striker eventually.
Well,
people say strikers a priority, which I disagree with slightly.
It is,
but it is a necessity sooner rather than later.
The fact that we could be recording, in fact, we are recording this before the Wolves game, but it's coming to you guys after the Wolves game, in which Newcastle United may have played without Alexander Isak, shows you that a striker is definitely a priority. What did he cost them? 20 million or something? 22 million, I think he cost them.
Interesting. I'm not sure.
20 million on a 5-year contract. Now, bear in mind, William Masula cost an initial 10 million, going up to 15 potentially, something in that region. For me, I would have gone after Liam Delap. I think, brilliant player. How much is he going to cost Newcastle United in the summer? If indeed it's who they go for, plenty of competition. He's been linked to several teams since, or this month rather. If they go down relegation release clause, there might be something there. I mean, without a relegation release clause, I think you're looking at least 20 million, and they're going to get their money back.
You would like to think there was a relegation release clause.
You would, but I think it would be for probably around £20 million. I think.
Then you would probably say that's a sensible signing for a Callum Wilson replacement.
If they stay up, then you probably chuck an extra 10, 12 million on it.
Yeah, and the rest.
Come on, then who was the second player?
Lloyd Kelly, because we haven't discussed this, and he has been a subject of a bid. We're on about realistic sales, and this is a player who has had a bid rejected. You know, it's on the Chronicle website that a bid has been rejected from Jose Mourinho's Fenerbahce for Lloyd Kelly, well below Newcastle's valuation of Lloyd Kelly. So what do you think their valuation of him will be, and what would it take for them to sell? Because I would argue there is scope to sell him.
I think there is scope. But
and
I think
you would fund a right-sided centre-back for the future by this sale, because you have Botman back, because you have Dan Burn as, well, not a backup, but a live contender because of the form he's shown. So where do you even start in valuing? And it would be pure profit as well, of course, because Kelly was a free signing.
So just bear in mind that we're talking about this, like I said,
if you mention that name.
No. I'll explain and say we're talking about this before the Wolves game, and you know this is a fluid story. So by the time we're
not linked with him.
No. By the time this comes to you about Lloyd Kelly, things may have changed. No, I've looked up Cameron Archer there because
don't want him.
No, I know. I'm not saying we have him. Will you just let me explain? Because obviously Aston Villa re-signed him in the summer and then sold him for £15 million.
It's not dodgy, is it?
But the point being is that you can kind of see scope there. So, I mean, there's obviously Newcastle signed Lloyd Kelly on a free. Yeah, look, £15 million for Lloyd Kelly. You want him more?
I don't know.
I think there'll be a reluctance to sell.
What do you think they've offered? 4 or 5 mil?
I think they'd be dead cheeky. I think they've been extremely cheeky, and part of me wonders as well, because they've been heavily linked to Carlos at Villa. Whether it's a little bit of gamesmanship, it's like, oh, okay, you don't want to accept their offer, Aston Villa. We've got after Lloyd Kelly, when in reality they only want Carlos. So I mean, that's just my viewpoint there. Look, I don't think Eddie Howe will want to sell him.
Doesn't want to sell anyone.
I think he will want to give him to the end of the season to see if it can work, because he wanted him here.
He was brought in as a squad player, though, wasn't he? Let's not.
That's true. And also, obviously, you've got Botman back, you've got Burn, you've got Share. Alex Murphy goes out on loan.
Yeah, and which would be a sensible decision. Probably should have happened in the summer, to be fair.
Maybe it depends on what Matt Targett does. Does Matt Targett go out on loan? Does Matt Targett stay? I think if Matt Targett leaves, I think Lely.
How much are you going to get for Targett? Because if you remember, I didn't. I said that we should not sign him on a permanent because the deal makes no sense.
You did. I think he would go on loan initially, and I think Newcastle was
going to be another Jamal Lewis.
Yeah, but I think if he goes, then Lloyd Kelly stays.
Yeah, because you need squad depth. I don't have it, and now I don't have any qualms about keeping Targett as a backup left back because it is Lewis Hall's spot to lose.
Keep Matt Targett or keep Lloyd Kelly. Depends on the price being offered, I guess.
Yeah, I think Kelly is more of a sellable asset than what Matt Targett is. I'd be fine keeping Targett as a backup,
and you'd be happy then with Botman, Byrne
on the left, and then Share
Kraft as the options.
No, I'd want to, if we were to sell one of them, I would want to be replaced. We do need a right-sided centre back sooner rather than later as well. That goes along with goalkeeper, in my view. There is a need to replace eventually, but it can wait till 12 months down, 18 months down the line at the most.
If Newcastle United could get anywhere above 15 million for Lloyd Kelly, I'd be cashing in.
Yeah, I would.
Straight away. I don't think they will get anywhere near that. I think Fenerbahce are maybe playing a little bit of a game, and they're using it to maybe try and force other deals. Again, that's just my mind.
What's the lowest you'd take?
I know the lowest some people would take. They'd carry him.
Bit harsh. I don't think he's been that bad.
I don't think he's been that bad. I think he's been outdone by two fantastic competitors in Dan Burn and Lewis Hall. I also think came on against Arsenal, did a job. I think there's been other times when he's come on and he's had 5-10 minutes. He's done.
When we played the classic 5-0.
But he did a job.
He did. He absolutely did.
Clearances, I think
did very well in the early rounds as well. At home to Chelsea.
This goes back to how much he's been paid. I don't think it helps him at all.
No, it doesn't.
And I think he's been quite harshly treated because of the whispers he's been paid 150 grand, which we just don't know is the case. And it's maybe blinding people to actually the good things he's done. It's been limited. Look, people know I was a big fan of him. I am a big fan of him. I picked these big things from him. I've got that wrong quite clearly. But I still
with Lloyd Kelly?
Yeah.
Why have you got it wrong?
Because it's just not happened for him. But there's still time.
It's his first season, and like you say, I wouldn't be.
I'm not writing him off.
No, I wouldn't be writing him off. But at the same time, he has a value that you would say, yeah, go on, we'll sell him because, like I say, it's pure profit because it was a free transfer, and you can utilise that to get in a right-sided centre back, which is going to be the long-term partner of Sven Botman.
Right, I've dished out my first thought and my second thought on this window. So, give me your first thought on what's going to happen this January.
What I think or what?
What you think?
Nothing.
Okay. A little bit more of a loose prediction.
Almiron will be sold and we will replace him with someone of the ilk of Bakayoko.
Oof, I think a lot of people would take that.
Probably Bakayoko over someone like Akalouche because Monaco, they consider PSV. They have Champions League campaigns, don't they? So that complicates things slightly.
Have more chance of getting.
Yeah, I mean, Kubo's probably a bit too expensive, and Burmo's probably a bit too expensive with what you'd be able to do because otherwise you're going to have to cash in on someone else, someone decent as well, which we don't want to do unless it is someone like Longstaff who is decent. But it's just. It's remarkable, really, this PSR nonsense that we're now 3 and a bit years after the takeover, and we're still having to kind of make do in a way that we can't trade as we would fully like to trade.
I think about this
because if we were, I'm adamant we would have been in a title race this season.
Well, we will never know, and you never know. You could still be in a title race.
No.
This has been Everything's Black Man podcast, brought to you by NordVPN. And when we're talking about signings, one thing you should definitely sign up to is NordVPN. Hit the link in the podcast description box. Keep yourself protected. Your subscription can go over 10 devices, which is brilliant value for money. And there's a host of other benefits as well. You can change your location on your laptop or device and maybe even pick yourself up a bargain when it comes to booking hotels or concert tickets in other countries.
Wembley.
Yes.
Wembley hotels.
I don't know if it's city specific.
There is Newcastle tax on it, though.
Yeah.
The prices did skyrocket. In the space of 24 hours,
they're
actually.
not daft. But anyway,
no, they're not. But hey,
thank you, Sam, for coming in. It's a pleasure to see you as always.
Yes, nice to be here once again. Hopefully, we won last night, because otherwise, I'm going to stop coming in, because that would be twice now.
Because you're the bad omen.
Potentially, this is what worries me.
The final and last question to ask you: are you going to go up to the club shop now and spend 90 quid or 108 quid on the retro 95-97 shirt?
I told my wife and children that no, I'm not. Look, there's no harm in looking. We can have a look. We can have a little feel of the material. Look, let's just go and look, for God's sake. Let's not get bogged down in who's buying what and this, that, and the other. Let's just go and have a look. Enjoy the day.
Well, there we go. Thank you as always, Sam. Thank you to you guys watching, and we'll catch you guys very soon.